So our large animal techs and vets are well into teat sealing at the moment. And today I've got Jess here from Vetlife down in Oamaru, who's going to talk to us a little bit more about teat sealing. So thanks for joining us today, Jess. Let's just start off maybe by talking a little bit about what teat sealing is in heifers and kind of why we go about doing that.
Okay, yeah, so teat sealants, they're sort of like a bismuth that we insert into the teat canal of heifers to try and prevent them getting mastitis as they're coming up to calving. Heifer mastitis, I mean, on some farms it can be a massive issue, and you can have 25% of heifers getting mastitis right at the start of their first season. And studies have shown in a number of studies, they've shown a 70% reduction in mastitis in that first 2 weeks of lactation, so it makes a big difference. And especially in a dry year, sometimes it's not quite so dramatic, but in a wet spring, then it makes a huge difference on farms. Heifer mastitis, first and foremost, it's a welfare issue for the heifer. It's very painful, but it also can lead to reduced production, and it can increase workload and stress on farm at an already very busy time. And the other thing as well is it's your best and your newest genetics coming through, and so you don't really want to have to be like losing quarters or ending up having to cull heifers for a completely preventable disease. Yeah, the process of teat sealing, it's something that has to be done very carefully. When you're introducing the tube into the teat canal, there is the potential to introduce bacteria with it, and so instead of making a physical barrier to prevent bacteria or dirt or anything getting in there and causing mastitis, you've actually introduced it yourself. And so it's something that we usually try and keep as sort of like a vet or vet technician sort of done thing, or at least with like people who've been trained really well on how to do it and how to do it cleanly, because again, you could be causing mastitis, or in some cases you can even end up with heifers that end up dying.
Yeah, it can absolutely be fatal, can't it, if you inject bugs in there? Because a lot of the time, or most of the time, or is it all of the time, we're not using antibiotics at the same time and we're just using Teatseal, or does that vary?
Yeah, so in heifers, when we're doing in heifers, we are just going in with the Teatsealing, which is bismuth. It's inert, it's got no antibiotics in there at all. Yeah. Sometimes when it's used in cows, it may be used in combination with antibiotics, but in heifers, it is just the bismuth. Yeah. Sometimes they have other antiseptics or that sort of thing in there too, but there's no antibiotic in there.
Yeah, perfect, which I guess is really important as we're getting to a stage where we're trying to use less antibiotics. We're trying to manage them appropriately from the point of view of reducing resistance, which is a real problem. So you mentioned there that you're kind of working in teams. That obviously involves people being in quite close proximity to each other. So how has the recent kind of COVID situation altered how you're able to kind of provide that service to your farms?
Yeah, so it's ended up, there's been a lot of discussion within Vetlife and right throughout the country with all production animal vets and things, trying to figure out how we can do it. One, whether it can be done at all, and two, how can it be done at each different alert level. And we've managed to sort of figure out how we can do it. And there are sort of steps that we're having to take that are sort of further than we would in other years. In general, because it's something that we try and do so cleanly, the hygiene is pretty good in that we're all wearing gloves, we wash and dry our hands between every animal and that sort of thing. But now we're adding in, glasses and masks and that kind of thing. And then that teat sealing team ends up becoming their own sort of work bubble where they're not sort of being exposed to other people within the clinic and that kind of thing, so that, they're staying at their own little bubble. And then when they go out on farm, if they have to, like for example, when they're actually doing the sealing, they may have to come within the 2 meters, but they're staying, the farm staff and anyone else is staying outside that 2 meters from them. And whenever they can, they're staying 2 meters or more apart, and it's only when they're actually doing the teat sealing itself, they come in within that 2 meter bubble, and then they move back out of it.
Yeah, perfect. So, I mean, throughout the business, there's been a massive push to keep everybody safe while we're still, providing that essential service that, everyone relies on. You mentioned kind of cows being different with antibiotic use. Has that changed then with the COVID situation, or what's the situation with cow teat sealing at the moment?
Okay, yeah, so with cows, we do use teat sealants as well. Usually used sort of in two scenarios. They're either used in combination with a antibiotic, and that, especially on farms that have done it before, that can sort of go on fairly normally. It can be really important. It has been shown to reduce risk of mastitis even further than just using antibiotics on its own. And I mean, there was a study that was done actually done through Vetlife on the South Canterbury farms, that they found that the mean dry period length on our farms is around 90 days. And even the long-acting dry cows, or ones that are sort of called long-acting, they often say like 49 days or that sort of thing. So there's a lot of cows that even if you're using a long-acting antibiotic, it's still not actually staying there in the teat right up until the point of calving. So adding a teat sealant on top then means that you're protected right through, no matter if the cow calves in August or October or that sort of thing. You've got that extra protection in there, and it's sort of going on for longer. The other way that we use teat sealants in cows is using them on their own, and so that will usually be, well, it will always be in a cow that has no evidence of infection or evidence of very low sort of somatic cell counts, no clinical mastitis or anything like that through the year. And it's a cow that doesn't need antibiotics, and so that would be when we go in and use teat sealants on their own. This year with COVID, it has sort of changed things a little bit, whereas we're trying to move further and further away from blanket antibiotic use and antibiotic use in cows that don't need it. But in order to do it properly, as I sort of said earlier with the teat sealants, it can have fatal results if you put it in properly. And so we will usually do very close sort of training and supervision of people to get them up to a standard where they can put the teat sealant in safely. And so it has meant this year that there are some farms where if they haven't done teat sealant on its own before, we are maybe just sort of putting that off until next year, and just for safety reasons. But I mean, going forward, it is definitely where we want to go. We don't want to be putting antibiotic into cows that don't need it, and using teat sealant on its own for cows that, depending on the farm, it could be cows that have a somatic cell count of less than 50,000 or 150,000 or that sort of thing. It can sort of be figured out with your vet. But it's definitely where we want to go in the future. But for right now, we are having to put it off for some farms.
Yeah, perfect. But it's a massively valuable tool in the kind of arsenal of how we can kind of manage our cows to help them produce, what they need to produce, but keep their quarters safe, keep their milk good quality, and reduce antibiotic resistance and antibiotic use, which is going to be something that's going to be pushed more and more into the future, no doubt. So perfect, brilliant. Thanks very much for joining us, Jess. That was some great information. I'm sure for all of you, even if you are doing teat sealing, there's probably a few pointers there or studies that you weren't aware of before. So yeah, I hope everything goes well with you teat sealing out there. The Vetlife teams, they're working really hard to make sure we're providing that service, and take care. Okay, bye.
Thanks.